So, I'm joined by Michael Vaughan, Stephen Finn, Jonathan Agnew, and we're going to talk a little bit about England's fast bowling and general bowling travails. They've had a pretty tough time of it in these two tests, notwithstanding they won the first one, but India have scored, Andy Zaltzman's alongside me, the best part of 400 in every innings. There was 300 and something in the second innings at Headingley.
Yes, they're the first team ever to pass 350 in both innings of the first two tests of a series, and they've scored more runs in the first two tests. I think it's 1,849 than any team has ever scored in the first two tests of a series.
So we're going to be chewing the cud over why that's happening and what England can do to turn that around. Is it the pitches? Is it the bowlers? Do they have enough miles in their legs? Who else might be better? And if you want to get involved, do so on 033 01 231 826. That's WhatsApp, 033 01 231 826. Or you can email us tms@bbc.co.uk on email. Yes, so the bare stats are not much fun for England. They've conceded more runs in this test match than any other game they've played bar one. Is that correct, Andy? 1,014 runs.
That is correct.
In a single test match. The bowling has looked, broadly speaking, toothless. I don't know if it's the pitches that are doing that, whether the bowlers are in nick. Jonathan Agnew, you bowled a lot of overs in your career. An awful lot more overs, I would suggest, than, for example, Tongue has bowled or is ever likely to bowl. What do you think of the problems that England have got in that department at the moment?
Well, I think they've got a lot of problems going into Lords. Whatever happens here, as far as the result is concerned, I mean, part of the reason for England's issues is they haven't really had a cutting edge to their attack these first couple of test matches, because all their fast bowlers, their pace bowlers, your Woods and your Archers, your Stones, unfortunately have been injured and so unselectable. So you have had, steady pace, but not throw the ball to the fast bowler to come tearing in and whip a couple of wickets out. So that's not been helpful to them. The ball's obviously been a bit soft as well. The pitches have been very flat. Ben Stokes has very generously afforded the opposition the first use of the pitch, which again makes it hard work. I know you can lose a toss and end up fielding yourself, but what are they going to do going into Lords? That's really the question. And at the start of this game, we were talking about Jofra Archer quite a lot and musing, well, maybe they might not pick him, but it looks like they probably would pick him for Lords, although he's had virtually no cricket. Well, I think looking at the situation now, they're going to have to pick him because there's probably going to be nobody else. He's going to have to play, isn't he? I mean,
surely they're going to pick him, because it's all very well, getting vibes around the group.
Yep.
But they had a whole round of county championship matches they could play with a Kookaburra ball that's designed to give England's bowlers experience with it before they go to Australia. They want to take him to Australia. If he's not playing in that game, it's because surely he's going to play in the next game.
Well, my question for Stokes at the start of this test was, will Jofra Archer be fit for Test cricket at the end of this week? Which I thought was quite a good question, actually, given that the option was him playing for Sussex, which I would have thought would have put him in better place to be fit for a test match if he got through that, his second game, than being here. And we've watched him. I mean, he's bowled on the edge of the square. He's bowled to Jeetan Patel with a mitt on. He's looked lively. He bowled with a left arm spin, I noted, at the end of one of his 20-minute stints. This is where I say my generation always makes you sound old, but previous generations would select only if you've played at least 2 games. I mean, you were not considered fit for selection for a first-class match, in my case, unless you'd played cricket, and you'd be sent sometimes up to the Lancashire Leagues to go and get a game, or play local league match or whatever it was, and you would show that you were fit to bowl, and that meant in the case of the leagues, you have to bowl all day basically up there because you're the pro, you're being paid, and so you'd just bowl all afternoon basically, or you'd play for the local club in Leicester or whatever it was. I mean, the point was you were playing cricket, and you weren't just bowling on the side, and it's again, hopefully not sounding old-fashioned and so on, but actually the only real way of knowing that you're going to be fit for a test match, and we talked about this with Jofra at the start of this game, is you go out there and you repeat, and you are out there. It's not just a question of repeating, have a bit of a bowl in the morning, then going and have a cup of tea, a bit of bowl in the lunch break out on the square, and that's essentially it. But it is repeating in a match situation. It is going there, bowling hard, running in, playing in a match, and then going down and standing in the field for an hour and a half before the ball's being thrown to you again, and then again, and then again. You might bowl 4 spells in a day, and in between times well, you could be going from fine leg to fine leg. You could be going all over the place in the field, and you're focusing on a game of cricket. So, what previous generations would consider to be fit, and given that Gus Atkinson could also be in the same situation for Lords, he hasn't played either since Zimbabwe. He's had a hamstring strain, and yet he might come straight into a Test match, which is extremely risky. Ben Stokes is seriously going to pursue again this policy of putting India into bat. It's going to be very hot over the weekend, and that comes with a huge risk. If you're going to play two bowlers, possibly, who have had as little cricket as that, key members of the team, that's a huge gamble, and that's the quandary that they find themselves in. Because I don't see Cast being fit for selection. I mean, he's obviously got one or two issues going in here. Tongue's bowled a lot of overs,
which was sort of as a hint that he's unlikely to be selected at Lords.
Well, indeed, he was chosen to bowl the long spells the other day. Stokes only bowled 4 overs the other day, perhaps looking after himself. Harry Brook bowled more overs than he did on that second day of the game. So, they've got a problem. So it's worth analysing it.
Now, Archer, you know very well, Stephen, because you played with him obviously at Sussex. You've seen him around. Also, you'll know that England, he's very high profile. They don't want to mess him up again. I mean, they've messed him up once. He's had high profile injuries. So if it's a gamble, it seems extraordinary they'll be taking it. They must be really confident that he'll be able to play at Lords, because you wouldn't take a gamble with Archer, surely.
No, not given the history, but I think Vorney made the point yesterday that 18 overs in a competitive first-class environment in 4 years doesn't necessarily set you up well to be robust enough to make it through the entirety of a 5-day Test match. And we look what's happened to the bowlers here. You can come into it feeling $1 million. You can come into it feeling not tired. You can come into it feeling as though your body's in a good spot. One long, hard, slogging day in the dirt, and you're back to square one. And then you're fighting an uphill battle for the next 4 days. And that's the concern for me as a bowler who has struggled with injuries through their career. For my own headspace, I would want to tick off a fair amount of bowling in a competitive environment before going out and wanting to do myself justice in a Test match. Because as a player, you're judged on how you perform in a Test match. I personally would never want to go into that environment feeling underdone in any sense of the word. I played one Test that I regret saying I was fit to play at Lords in 2016. My knee was swelled up the size of a balloon. We had no Anderson and Broad, and effectively I was the senior bowler, and I wanted to play because I wanted that responsibility. But I took none for 150 in the game, and as a result of that, I got dropped for the next game, and your reputation's tarnished as a result of that. So
that's a good point, because you actually are doing nobody in your team any favours if you play when either you're not physically fit or you're actually not quite sure in your own brain. Because if it goes wrong, you've left your teammates in trouble. You can't be replaced.
Okay, but England have got a problem though, haven't they, Michael? They're not doing this. It's not ideal, but who else could come in and play? You've got some players who are fit and have got some miles under their belt, but Jamie Overton has not played for Surrey. He was out in the IPL. They didn't bring him back. When he came back, they didn't put him in to say, he's got to play for Surrey, get some more miles under your legs. Instead, he's been hanging around this group. He's basically not played cricket. He's been a 13th man everywhere.
His finger's okay now.
Finger's okay. Dylan Pennington, they were quite interested in, but he's kind of disappeared a bit. They had a look at Sam Cook. Unclear whether they were happy with what they saw at Trent Bridge.
Well, you have to be, because he's in the squad.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he went and played a domestic game, didn't he, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, and he's played a bit this season, hasn't he? He's played a fair bit for Essex, so he's probably the one bowler who really has got quite a lot of overs under his belt. I mean, this isn't an ideal situation, but do they have any other choices?
No, I would say Craig Overton, potentially from Somerset. He's not quick, but he's been bowling a lot of overs, and he's bowled quite nicely. But if you're going to play on these pitches, and I think the ball's a big issue. The ball is different this year, and it's been different for a couple of years, where the Duke ball of all, where you just knew it was going to swing around in English conditions. Whatever the pitch, the ball was always going to swing around. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So it's a lot harder once that ball gets to 20 overs to really blast a team out. We used to always watch, and after 60, 70 overs, the Duke ball would be still swinging around. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So the English-style seamer, that we've always known that in English conditions would be absolutely fine. And that's going back many, many years. You just knew an 80-mile-an-hour wobbler was always going to be a success in the
Like
UK.
Chris Wokes,
Chris Wokes is a bit better than that. You know, Sam Cook's a perfect example. He looks an outstanding bowler when the ball moves around. Well, that first test match that he played against Zimbabwe at Trent Bridge, it was a flat wicket and the ball didn't do a great deal. So he looked a little bit innocuous. You know, that'd be the concern for me, that we you know, Wood's not fit, Archer is only coming back, Ollie Stone's not fit. So they're the three really that you look at as an X factor in pace. And when you're lacking that and you've not got them in your side, I can understand. I have a real concern about Jofra playing next week. I really do. I can't see how his body's going to be able to cope with a 5-day match on the back of that 1 day in the field. But I can understand why England are wrapping him in cotton wool, because he is that X factor. He has got that ability. We all go back to that spell that he bowled to Steve Smith at Lords. I mean, it was just up there with the great spells in Test match cricket. But, you know, after that spell, you know, what has Jofra done in Test match cricket? So we are kind of looking at Jofra as if he is the saviour to everything, and we've got to be very, very careful on the player and the human being that we don't expect too much too soon.
See, I'm getting mixed messages here, because there's like wrapping him in cotton wool, but you're also saying that he needs to bowl way more overs.
But we're not saying he needs to play 8 championship games in 8 weeks to then prove that he's fit to play a
but
test
maybe
match.
2 or 3.
But if the timing, I think the timing is the thing that would have been the concern. Like
He had a chance last week.
Yeah, but that would have meant playing back-to-back games for the first time in 4 years.
But it was only he only bowled for 1 innings in Durham, so it's not back-to-back hard games. It's 1 day he's been in the field. And
that's a 7-hour coach journey, though, up and back. And the 2 days in between games.
I personally felt that he should have played the last round of 4-day cricket.
Yeah, so do I.
He should have played.
I don't understand why he didn't.
And England could have played him for the first 2 days and then brought him here to Edgbaston. And they allow players to come and go these days, which is great. It's
and be
good for the
replaced.
player. Yeah, and the same for Sam Cook. And actual fact, I would argue that Jacob Bethel should have played as well, just to give these players playing. I mean, I will say that Scott Boland for Australia travels the world and doesn't play. You know, so he is a bowler there.
Yeah.
He's in a similar kind of boat to a lot of these players. That he doesn't play a lot of cricket, and in Australia, when the Test series starts, he basically gets travelled around and very rarely plays. He gets thrown into the Test match now and again, but you know, it is hard these days that, you know, when you've got concussion replacement, so you need a batter waiting in the wings, always at the venue just in case. You know, you want your bowlers waiting there the day 2 before, just in case someone gets injured on the morning. But this last week, particularly with the Kookaburra ball, I thought it was a perfect chance for Sam Cook, Jofra Archer, go and play a couple of days, and Jacob Bethel, and then bring them here for a couple of days prep.
You've mentioned Scott Boland. What about Akash Deep? How many first-class games has Akash Deep played this year? He came into this game and has taken 4 wickets in the first innings, 1 already or 2 in the second. He's bowled some ripping deliveries. He's kept going at 86, 87 miles an hour. I mean, is this just English bowlers? Why is it that there's an awful lot of not first-class cricket played around the world, and bowlers come in from playing the Indian Premier League, and we're not, you know, their teams aren't fixating over whether or not they've had enough conditioning?
Well, this test is Akash Deep's first red ball game since the Boxing Day test against Australia.
Right, so that's 7 months without a red ball game. He's looked pretty good to me.
He has. You'd wonder how he pulled up after it. You know, I think that's more the point. But yeah, I think he's bowled nicely. I thought he looked a bit flat actually. The second day of England's first innings, whatever. I'm going back through the days now. That he bowled
during the 303 partnership when the ball had died.
He looked a bit. But he bowled beautifully yesterday. I mean, he's a good new ball bowler, isn't he?
And Siraj as well. I don't suppose has played an enormous amount of red ball cricket. I mean, now he's played.
Well, it's because they're on the back of the IPL. They have their 3-month IPL window, so they all play in that. The most important thing for them, they're bowling. You know, they're playing 4 day, you know, 4 over cricket, right, if you like, in terms of the 20 stuff. But they're out there bowling and playing cricket. You know, they're out in the field for an hour and 40 minutes, or to be fair, in IPL it's 2 hours 10 generally because it goes on forever. And they're out there field. The big thing for me is the fielding. You know, being out there in the dirt. You know, the bowling and the skill set. As I've been watching Jofra all week, he'll be fine for the skill. You know, he is a very, very talented, skillful bowler. It's just standing at mid-off, going down to fine leg, then get given the ball for a 3 over burst. Go on, Jofra, bowl these bouncers. You know, this is the tactic that England go for, the bouncer tactic. You two next to me will tell you a lot more than I can about whacking the ball into a flat pitch with an old ball. That takes so much out of the body, and England turned to that tactic so many times.
I just say
early in
this
the game.
Test match is actually the perfect example of why we're concerned. The amount of time they've spent out there and what they've had to do, the amount of fielding they've had to do. I think this. If people say, well, why are they concerned about Jofra Archer? Why are they concerned about Gus Atkinson? Well, this match and the way it's gone demonstrates it perfectly as to why we are.
Vinny, you've been itching to say something.
Well, me and Aggers were there when I think that they broke Jofra Archer the first time, Mount Maunganui in 2019.
But why they did that?
And he was tasked with bowling bouncer after bouncer after bouncer. I'm just getting the scorecard up here. He bowled
30 odd overs.
He bowled 42 overs in the innings. This was just on the back of the 2019 summer where he bowled that electric spell against Steve Smith. He got bowled into the ground there, and then broke soon after that. So that's the worry and concern, is that because he's such an X-factor bowler, and I think Ben Stokes is far better at managing bowlers than any captain before him because he is a bowler and he understands how bloody hard it is to go out there and flog yourself like that in those conditions. But that was the game. 42 overs at Mount Maunganui.
And Michael's right to bring up the short ball stuff, because it is very much part of England's game, isn't it? I mean, they go to that, and they go to it quite quickly. So if Jofra Archer is playing at Lords, you can see that's what he'll be asked to do.
His first spell will be fine.
Yeah.
You know, but say they get off to a good start, India, and then he comes back for that second spell, I'm sure. But then you have to bowl another spell, and then you have to wake up the day after, maybe go out there again.
You've probably got a new ball in the evening first.
And we also know that Lords gets better and better. So
whoever wins the toss will bowl first at Lords. Yeah,
exactly. So
regardless of the overhead conditions, that whoever wins that toss at Lords, I think will bowl first.
So in 4 days'
and I'm going to say now that they're going to be mad to do so.
Because
the conditions are going to be boiling hot,
30
and that
degrees.
pitch at Lords will it might start by doing a little bit, but spin will come into the equation at Lords. And if the heat bears down like we think it will be, let's be brutally honest about this series, that the decisions at the toss have been wrong. The first test at Headingley, they got away with it. It wasn't the right decision. England ended up winning the game because their batters chased something. But if India had caught well, that would have been the wrong decision at Headingley. And this week again, it's been the wrong decision. So I'd be very, very wary of bowling first when the sun's bearing down, even on a pitch at Lords that potentially might have a little bit of action on the first hour or two or the first 3 hours. Because if it bakes for 3 or 4 days, spin will definitely come into the game.
All I say is it's the template that'll be used, because they saw the World Test Championship final, and everybody's playing at Middlesex at the moment will tell you the same thing, that they win toss and bowl. So whether it's right or wrong, they're going to do it. Andy?
Oh, cheers! As the sun comes out, rather than for you introducing me to this conversation, Dan, to highlight why I guess England are so keen to get Jofra Archer in. First Ashes series, 4 tests, 22 wickets, average 20, and then the next test he played was that one in Mount Maunganui, and his test career since then, 9 tests, 20 wickets, averaged just under 43. So, if they can recapture that Jofra Archer of 2019, that's an amazing bowler. Whether he still exists as a
6
test
years
bowler,
ago, yeah.
it is a long time ago. And just looking at the sort of seamers used in Bazball, the 2 seamers since Stokes and McCullum took over who have bowled the most balls for England are still Anderson and Broad, then Wokes and Stokes. Matthew Potts is a sort of name that sort of drifted a bit out of the conversation. Not had a great season in domestic first class, 18 wickets at 40, but has generally...
well against Sri Lanka at Lords last year, and then the week after, it was the week where they went for Josh Hill over Matthew Potts, who bowled well the week before.
He only ever seems to play 1 test, doesn't he, in isolation? He did it in New Zealand.
Contract, that, isn't it?
Well, you take it, that's for sure, but as a bowler, you want a backup game.
Just on the real problem I have with Jofra Archer is the noise that is created around Jofra, and we all talk about him, and I just felt that this week was the perfect chance to just nullify that noise somewhat by just giving him a bit more cricket. Let's have another look at him, let's give him another day in the dirt, and then he comes through that, no problem. But by only having 1 day, it's given the noise of the factor of Jofra coming back, and we're all 4 of us are sat here, and 5 with Andy, talking about Jofra coming back on the back of just 1 day in the dirt in 4 years.
Yeah, we asked you to get involved, and Robert Drummond has done that. He says, Ollie Robinson had a great start to his England career. Then there were various issues. What could or should England do to get him back to his best? and into this side, or indeed, really, do they want to? Now, Andy, you were going through bowlers under Bazball. Ollie Robinson bowled a fair bit under Bazball at the beginning, didn't he? Bowled a little bit the year before as well in 2021. Everyone was very excited about his high release point, his very low first class average.
He had an amazing start, didn't he?
He had loads of miles in his legs.
He looked a very quick learner. He looked I remember standing on the outfield, I think it was at the Oval at the end of the series that summer, saying I think he's one of the most natural bowlers I've ever seen. I'd still say that. I think the way he just ran out and bowled and made it look so incredibly easy, the way he just let the ball go, the wrist was beautiful. But clearly there were other issues, weren't there? And it also fell apart, that COVID tour of Australia.
He had a good record in Australia, didn't he? His record in Oz?
He did okay. So he had 11 wickets in 4 tests, averaged 25. They were
Okay.
quite low score, but they were quite low scoring games. He didn't play in Sydney, which was the flattest batting pitch of that series. He didn't have a fourfer, so he didn't take a huge amount of wickets.
And his pace was down, wasn't there? I mean, wasn't there
At
issues
times,
about his fitness?
So
An average of 25 in Australia, I'd take that.
Yeah.
But I think in the context of that series and the pitches he played on, and the fact there was 11 wickets in 4 tests was not a huge number.
So where did he compare to the other bowlers on that trip?
I'll get that stat up.
You're really working him here today.
Overall,
I'm just saying, from my recollection, averaging 25 with the ball in Australia, that's pretty good.
But let's not forget, of course.
Well, it's the back spasms that have cost him, isn't it? There's the times, I think it was Hobart, where he couldn't bowl because of the back spasm.
And in India.
In India, in his last test match, I think in Dharamshala, if I remember correctly.
Is that him doing what you said you shouldn't have done? Is that him playing when he really shouldn't have done?
I don't know, but I know he is a very, very gifted bowler. And he's a big thinker about the game. So I wasn't lucky enough to actually play a game with him when I played for Sussex because he was playing for England. But you see him working in the nets and he talks about moving batters around the crease, coming wide of the crease. Akash Deep yesterday came wide of the crease after bowling mid-crease to Joe Root. And he has that thinking brain. And I having spoken to Australians who played him in that series, it was his bounce that they were concerned with. He could bring them forward on a full length and still hit the top corner of their bat and the splice of their bat, and the edges will carry.
So why are we not talking about him? Why does he feel like he's been out in the cold? I mean, we've gone through a whole list of names of bowlers, none of whom have got his credentials, none of whom have got 70-odd test wickets, none of whom are 6'6" with a high release point, who are the most natural bowlers that Aggers has ever seen. Why are we never talking about
I think you've got to respect the leadership group at the time that they're in power. And I get a sniff that Ollie Robinson is not the type of, I don't know if it's the cricketer or the person, but I get a sniff that he's done one or two things that maybe are against the grain of what this team are. So, i.e., Ben Stokes has won the toss and bowled twice. You've never once looked down and thought that a bowler is looking at the skipper going, what have you done? Their attitude is fantastic out in the middle. They just get behind the skipper. Whatever he decides, it's the right decision for the team. I'm guessing that maybe that may not be the case potentially if Ollie's in the side. And Baz and Ben, they want these personalities and characters that absolutely buy in. That's the only thing I can say, because in terms of skill set and what he has delivered, Ollie Robinson is a real quality
Because
bowler.
he's never mentioned, and no one ever seems to ask the management about it.
It's as if he's been cast out, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, John Lewis really hung him out to dry, didn't he, at the end of the Ashes?
That wasn't
in
nice, was
Hobart.
it?
I mean, he really pointed the finger about fitness and so on, and there's really been no way back from that. I mean, there have been times where he's not looked. He hasn't hit the bat hard. He didn't look as if he was as fit as he might have been. But I just make the point. But also, I mean, one of you two was talking about what else he added. I mean, he was, for a while, I remember on the last West Indies tour, sort of the team analyst. He was used to literally with the PowerPoint presentations. He was used in the team room as telling people and advising people how to get various West Indian batsmen out. I mean, that was, that's quite a status, isn't it, in a team situation? So that's where he was. Whether that was an effort to kind of make him feel a bit more engaged and a bit more involved, well, I don't know. But that's the position that he was given on that tour, anyway.
It feels a little bit like these stories that crop up every now and then, every 10 or 15 years, like KP being out in the wilderness. It feels a little bit like that. Stephen Worthing has been in touch, and he says, very gnomically, Dan Worrell for the next Test top bowler. Well, Dan Worrell's obviously an Australian who's got British citizenship. He's taken a lot of wickets for Surrey in the last 2 years, but this season I've seen a lot of him, actually, and across the country the pitches are so dull at the moment, and the balls are just not interacting with it. You're just so hard to take wickets. That,
I'll give you another name.
yeah.
Bit old. Jimmy Anderson. He's bowling all right.
I am convinced.
He should be in the T20 team.
4 overs, 2 for 24 against Northants 2 nights ago.
Every game he's doing it.
Well, I'm convinced that he genuinely believes that he should be in the team.
Well,
Otherwise,
I think
why
he
is he
does
playing for
I think he
Lancashire?
definitely does. The umpires are coming out, by the way, for a look.
He's got more miles under his belt than any other England bowler at the moment, hasn't he? Because he keeps on bowling in
Well,
first class.
it's quite interesting though, because Jimmy's still bowling the same Jimmy that Jimmy's bowled for 5 or 6 years, and England suddenly have said, no, that's enough. We've seen enough of your skill set. But you can understand in his head, he's going, wait a minute, I'm still delivering what I've delivered for many years. He's not going to play, but it's actually I wished I had Jimmy's kind of. I love cricket, but I didn't love playing enough.
At 43.
Yeah, but
I'm 36 and I could not dream of bowling
No,
another.
but I admire him so much for thinking that he wants to get in that dressing room, he wants to get out there, and to play you have to practice. And
He's
you have to
skippering, isn't he, in a minute?
Yeah, I admire him for being able to do that.
Shows his mindset, though, doesn't it? As a fast bowler, I've come across some pretty cussed individuals who are fast bowlers over the years. I mean, you do need a streak of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got it in spades. Obviously, why he's kept going for so long. But the fact that he is still going just gives you a little. It opens a window slightly into the mentality.
How many do England have to lose? If so.
Yeah.
Say we lose.
It's a bit like next in line to the throne. How far do you have to get?
How far down do we need to go before they go, Jim?
15?
I think you've got to lose a few. Because they made that decision, and it was always going to be a difficult decision, wasn't it? And he made it. He made it a difficult decision for them to make. But they've done it now.
George Rankin's been in touch. Now, I'm going to give you 2 other names, because there's one that's come up here, Saqib Mahmood, and another man who I think made his debut with him, Matthew Fisher, who has been playing for Surrey this season.
He's a nice bowler.
And he is a lovely looking bowler with the
he is.
kookaburra. We've been talking about who can bowl with a kookaburra. Well, I tell you, Surrey have struggled. Everyone's struggled to take wickets with the kookaburra. Matthew Fisher has been their most effective bowler with that
Skillful.
ball.
Yeah, both bowled in the West Indies on that tour, didn't they?
It's just the thing that this attack is lacking on these kind of wickets, and you go to Australia with a kookaburra ball, and the pitches will be, there's big blocks that they drop in. They're going to be good pitches. You just need that little bit of something.
You need pace.
That little bit of pace.
Yeah.
Well, Saqib Mahmood is one that we've been talking about. You love him in white ball cricket, Stephen.
Well, it's that robustness, isn't it? Again, Saqib Mahmood would be a fantastic Test match bowler, and I think he's signed a white ball contract at Lancashire, but is playing a few red ball games. I think as like a little side deal on that contract. I think he still harbours hopes to play the longest format, but it's that robustness that Jimmy and Stuart Broad were able to have through their entire careers that has eluded, probably apart from Chris Wokes, the entirety of this next generation.
But answer me, because people at home will be wondering, they don't quite understand, why is it that England management think that Jofra Archer can be okay to play at Lord's next week on the back of 18 overs in 4 years, but Saqib Mahmood will need to build up by playing 2, 3, 4, 5, who knows how many red ball games. And look, I have to confess, I'm a
Archer's
bit
better.
baffled.
I mean, Archer is generational. Saqib Mahmood is very good. He's an excellent bowler, but Archer is generational in the sense that when he is at his absolute fittest and best, he's in the top bowlers in the world.
Yeah,
It would be
It sort of answers my question,
really
but-
sad if they pick Archer and he breaks down. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be. And I'm talking about, it's a risk or whatever. Everything's a gamble, and people do break down in cricket. But with all the talk and all the just everything's gone on about Archer's reselection, and I'm talking about immediately. I'm not talking about further on. I mean, why play him at Lord's? Why not play him at the Oval or whatever? It would just be really, really, really sad after all this time and all the efforts that he's made, and he's clearly worked extremely hard to keep himself fit and to keep playing. It would just be so sad if he broke down at Lord's, because I think people will be saying, well, what have you done?
Well, exactly, which is why I'm kind of assuming that they must know stuff that we don't. Andy, we're going to now pretend that we're Alec Bedser and Peter May, so we're going to open...
What do you reckon they know?
Well, I don't know, but surely they can't put them... They must know that they think he's capable of handling
They're just confident.
Because
They're confident that the workload that he's done in the training ground, that they're confident that he should be able to get. But, as ex-players, you kind of just know it's just that that day in the field, what's he going to be like the day after? That's going to be. I think he'll be fine.
It's a gamble.
It's a massive
It's a gamble.
but it'll
That's
be
the point.
Days
Yeah.
2, days 3, days 4, and the fact that we know he can't play back-to-back games, so it'll be probably he'll play at Lords and then he'll probably play at the Oval.
But whoever England pick is a gamble because none of the bowlers that they would really want to get out there are fit at firing and have played enough cricket. So I want to be Peter May and Alec Bedson now. I want to open the Daily Telegraph in 1985 and let's make it 1989 and ditch 5 members of the team that's just lost to Australia and bring in the top 5 from the averages.
Well, if it's Alec Bedser, you'll need first of all at the pre-match dinner.
Oh, yes.
You must sit next to Alec if that's going to be, and he'll tell you what potatoes is planted in his allotment.
Oh, lovely.
Not a lot about how to bowl at Viv Richards or whatever it may be, but a lot about the different variety of potatoes that are planted in my experience.
I found out something rather lovely about him, that he didn't wear his England tie until his twin brother Eric died.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
he didn't think...
Well, they always wore the same ties.
They
though.
wore exactly the same clothes.
Yes.
And because Eric never played for England,
He couldn't wear an
didn't
England
wear
tie.
his England tie. Anyway, aside from the nice things about Alec Bedser, we're going to go into the selecting the team based on the averages, having not seen any of these players play. So
just the averages for this.
Yes, please.
What's the makeup of our attack?
Well, I think we want. So we're assuming Stokes is in.
Yeah.
Obviously. I think
We're
we're
looking for
thinking
3
of-
seamers and a spinner then.
yeah, we're looking for 3 seamers and a spinner.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be Wokes, but the indications might be that because he's had slightly lower workload, so they might be looking to play him at Lords, I would think.
I think we know what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, yeah, but if we're going to go off the averages,
Okay.
if we're going to do it Alec Bedser's way,
Right.
who are we going for?
Well, the leading in the first class averages of bowlers who bowled more than 100 overs this season is George Hill of Yorkshire, also played for the England Lions, who's taken 42 wickets in 10 games, average 17.
By the way, that is very hard to do this season because there are a lot of very placid wickets.
Well, I will say at Headingley, the pitches have had quite a bit of grass on them.
Right,
I think
okay.
12 mils of grass.
And he didn't have a huge amount of success at the Oval where everyone struggled.
Can I just say, umpire Shafradullah is the most hirsute international umpire on the circuit these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's a magnificent head of hair.
Yeah, it's nice.
Is up there with Alim Dar.
Oh, I think he beat time. Well, he's retired anyway.
But he has
Cool
been.
shades on as well.
Peak Alim Dar had some great hair.
Yeah.
So we've got George Hill, and he can bat George Hill. He's a genuine all-rounder, isn't he? Bats at
He's not. He's bowling all rounder.
bowling around. Okay.
And what's his bowling like for those who've not?
He's an English style pitch up movement bowler.
Cook in that Sam Cook kind of
Yeah, I
mould.
wouldn't say he's quite Sam Cook yet, but he's had a tremendous time of it. And he brings in all modes of dismissal.
Next, England qualified bowler in the averages, 100 overs minimum. Leicestershire's Ben Green, but I don't know.
Well, he's on loan from Somerset.
All right. Well, England obviously a bit burned by picking Leicestershire seamers.
Yeah, so we've got Georgia Hill and Ben Green playing. Yeah, making debuts next week.
Jack White of Yorkshire, 29 wickets at 21.
Australian.
Northants came from Northants at the end of last year. Yeah.
Then Lewis Rees of Derbyshire. Has,
Can we take out the
21
second
wickets.
division? I want to take out the second division.
Jamie Porter, who's been in England squads in the past,
He has,
but is
yes.
similar bowler to Sam Cook, I
Yep.
guess, and a bit older. He's having a good season, 30 wickets at 22, as tremendous record through his.
I think
through his
we just
career.
need to say that Sam Cook, and I mean he's obviously a very successful bowler in county cricket, demonstrated against Zimbabwe the danger of just taking someone out of county cricket and saying, there you are, you can play test cricket, because he didn't look to me as if he had the pace on a very flat pitch and the ball not doing anything to be effective in test cricket. Now it's only one game, I accept that, but we are trusted to make reasonably quick decisions on people. I'm surprised he's still here. If I'm absolutely brutally honest, maybe they picked the first 2 test squads together.
Well, I think he had to jump through a lot of hoops to make it into that test squad in the first place. And you talk about these rounds of Kookaburra Balls matches. He took 10 wickets in a match at the beginning of last season to win Essex the game when in a week where Sam Northeast scored 300.
Yeah.
There were stacks and stacks of runs. So I think that was his first hoop to jump through. And then he had a very successful Lions tour of Australia over the winter as well, bowling with a Kookaburra ball in those conditions, was the best bowler there. So I'd be reluctant to judge him on one performance. I wasn't there at the game. I only watched it on...
Might he have frozen a bit as well?
on TV. There's an
nerves,
element.
isn't there?
But he did get an early wicket, and he had things going for him I don't know. It's just my own.
Where's Jordan Clark in this list? Because he's a
So
man.
you just want to? Look, should we
No,
just,
I don't
Why
want
don't
to.
we do the
Pick
top
Worrell,
5 of the
Clark,
Surrey averages?
yeah.
I don't.
What a shambles.
I don't
Yeah.
want them to take. I don't want to take my players. I want my players to be playing for Surrey to win the county championship. I'm trying to find out
think
which
you'll
ones
be
they're likely to
fine.
nick. We're only 1 point clear at the top of the table.
Clark in 9 first-class games this summer has taken 28 wickets, average 28, which is decent.
Yep. But again, I mean, he doesn't really get it much above 80. I've hardly seen fast bowlers in the county championship this year. I've watched a lot.
I wouldn't trust those speed guns, but yeah,
I
there's
haven't
no
seen.
one pushing 85 plus on those speed guns. Yeah, but the conditions aren't conducive.
The key to England's attack is it's got to have that variation. You know, they're not going to find 4 bowling 90 miles an hour. They just don't have that. But what they'll be hoping over the course of this summer and going to Australia, that if they can get 2 in every game in Australia, you know, Jofra and a Wood, maybe an Ollie Stone and a Wood, and make a 5-match series where you know you've got 2 that can just bowl a little bit of gas, and then with that Ben Stokes and another, whether it's a Chris Woakes, whether it's a Sam Cook, that I think will be the plan. Where does Shoaib Bashir fit into our attack?
Yes, it's a perfectly reasonable question. The spinner, Shoaib Bashir, right. Who are the best spinners in the country? I mean, who do you think are? Liam Dawson is the most obvious candidate. Jack Leach, those 2 are the most experienced and the most wicket-taking bowlers. Liam Dawson comes with runs as well.
Well, first and foremost, I feel for Shoaib because he's being asked to do a role on day one because England are bowling first and there's nothing there for him. You know, as a young spinner, I mean, he's only 21. He's had a good start to his Test career. Well, you must fancy having at least a little bit of an omelette to look at when you bowl your first ball in a Test match. So I do feel for him. But if it's going to be that England are going through this kind of chase stage, well, what kind of spinner do you need? Is it a really attacking spinner? And Shoaib is he's an attacking spinner because he gets it up there, or do you need a holding spinner really that can bat a bit?
But do you know any off-spinner of his age and experience who's ever been good enough for Test cricket, do you think? And can you
I can't think one going back. I mean, he really is. He's being asked to learn how to bowl in Test cricket, and to go along with what Michael was saying as well, is that Ben Stokes always has attacking fields for him as well. So, you know, he's inevitably going to concede runs, isn't he? The mid-on and mid-off are up most of the time. So, you know, I think they'll persevere with him because they see him as an investment. So I suspect that Bashir will be playing.
I mean, I get that, I understand that, but why are you using somebody during a 5-test series against India and a 5-test series against Australia to learn the game? I mean, I can sort of understand if he bowled in next summer's 6 tests, and not wish to denigrate the opponents, but 2-3 test series against not India and not Australia, who are the 2 most high-profile teams England play. Why not, for example, as Matt from Bristol suggests, go with someone like Jack Leach, who has 100 and how many wickets for England? 130 odd wickets for England.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in Liam Dawson because I just think he offers a bit with the bat. Good fielder.
Not really been given a run in tests.
And if your spinner is a holding bowler on these kind of surfaces, and let's be honest, in Australia, finger spinner's not going to rip through the Aussies. So it might be that finger spinner, particularly in the first 2 weeks of the series, when you look at Perth and Brisbane, the day-nighter, I think if you're a batter facing England and you get to a spinner in those first 2 weeks, you're going to be quite happy. And your role as a spinner is going to be, right, just hold an end and try and give the seamers a little bit of rest.
So do they put too much store by certain physical attributes? You know, we saw it with the selection of Josh Hull. Oh, great, he's 6'7" and he's left arm. Doesn't matter that you haven't really seen him bowl a great deal, and nor does he take very many wickets. Shoaib Bashir, if we're going to Australia, we want a tall bowler who's going to bring it into the pitch. Doesn't really matter that he's barely played any cricket.
I suspect that's largely, or not largely, but a big factor in what they see. Absolutely. You know, they're looking ahead. They've had Australia in their mind. I think he bowled all right in India. I mean, we weren't on that tour, unfortunately, but he seemed, I think he did a good job there, and they've clearly decided that he was the one to persevere with rather than Hartley, for instance. So now they've made that decision. It's quite difficult to chuck out a 21-year-old spinner who's been bowling under these circumstances.
No, I agree, and I think he's got a massive future. But I'm just looking at the next
Yeah, the next
8
year.
Test matches
Yeah.
now, and I'm trying to work out what's the best thing for England to win games of cricket, and it's not necessarily going to be you just stick with the spinner. You know,
But Ben Stokes again, and he does make statements. Said whatever it was a year ago, there will always be a spinner in my side. So
Well,
he's just made it again.
But that spinner, I mean, again, Maharaj has had success in Australia. He's kind of a shorter left-arm spinner, skids it onto the front of the right-hander's pad. You know, is Dawson that kind of spinner
Yeah.
in Australia? In the first 2 Test matches, is it that you take someone like Liam Dawson just for the... And he's an experienced pro, so I don't really think it matters that he hasn't played a lot of international cricket. You came into the white ball stuff recently, straight into it. He's a seasoned pro. And is it that they need someone just in case that they feel that week in Perth or that week in Brisbane, that they just need someone? And necessarily, it's a luxury to play an out-and-out off-spinner in a week where you think, not too sure how much the off spinner is going to play, but you want a little spinner that can just skid it onto the pad and can offer you a little bit more with the bat.
Can we get Ravi on? Because he might have a view on this. I mean, he was very, very good on how Joe Root should bowl his spin. He said if the pitch is turning, really give it a rip. If not, just let it skid on through.
Yeah.
So, he might very well be a big fan.
Yeah, maybe.
As an option to, well, if they're going to play the chasing game, it strengthens your batting.
Now, hang on a minute. We've got a whole bunch of suggestions here, and we've completed one man who took a 5 on debut. I would bring Rehan Ahmed in for Shoaib Bashir and Jacob Bethel in for Zach Crawley. Change all 3 seamers, all 3, for Archer, Atkinson and Overton, says Andy in Bournemouth. I mean, I think he's going to get his wish with Archer and Atkinson. I don't think he's going to get either of the other 2. And I would say that I think Rehan's brother Farhan, I've seen a bit of bowling on very unresponsive wickets at Trent Bridge this season, is an interesting longer-term prospect. But the problem is, all of these spinners are teenagers or early 20s. So,
Yeah, there's one person who's not talked about who I find it curious isn't talked about at all, and Jack Carson at Sussex.
yes.
I played with him. He's got 166 first-class wickets at 33 and a half. He's got one
How old is
first-class... He's 24. One first-class 100 and 11 50s. You compare that to Graham Swan's first-class average across the entirety of his career, 32.1. Monty Panesar's first-class average across the entirety of his career was 35.
That's a strange
There's a lot of
noise.
numbers on my
Yes.
screen here. Hold on. Average, 31.22, 700 wickets. So he's not a million miles away from that as a 24-year-old. He's competitive. He's aggressive in the sense that he loves being in people's faces. He gets fired up. I find it curious. He was on a Lions tour 2 winters ago, and then hasn't been selected for Lions teams since then. But having played with him and watched him and followed Sussex closely, clearly because they're a team that I used to play for and are very fond of, I find it very surprising that he's not talked about more, because I think he's a very good spinner.
And he's actually bowling in the first division for a team that's gone up and is actually playing really well. I mean, Sussex are 3rd in the table.
Well,
I
they're
think,
punching
at the moment.
above their weight,
They
aren't
really are.
He's a good cricketer.
I mean, when you compare it with Shoaib Bashir's experience at the start of the season, he went on loan to Glamorgan. Could barely buy a wicket there. You've got a guy settled at a county, knows what he's doing, regularly taking wickets.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
I
very-
think we've got to be careful. That I've said it before. Shoaib Bashir is an England cricketer. He's not a county cricketer. He's done well for England. It's just I'm trying to give them options for when that moment comes that your off spinner like Shoaib is just a luxury. And to beat the best teams, I don't believe you can go into a game with a luxury. And it might be that you just need to think out of the box, and you're not going to ruin Shoaib Bashir's career by taking him out of a game or 2 just to try and get the best out of your team for that given week. And it might be in the 3rd test in Australia, in Adelaide. Certainly you're going to need it's a day game as well. You're going to need your off spinner. But for those first 2 games in Australia, I'm looking going, okay, is Shoaib Bashir, with the way that he bowls, too much of a luxury for England this week and the next week? And it might be better off with a Liam Dawson style cricketer just for those first 2 test
Or
matches.
Bethel and Root.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying in Australia this winter it was actually surprising that Lyon played as much as he did, and he's one of the greatest off spinners that...
Well, you could argue. I mean, that game in Perth, India played great. But throughout the whole of Sydney even, and you kind of, you think to Sydney and think, and it's always the week leading, will they play 2 spinners? It's nonsense.
Doesn't turn
Sydney,
anymore, does
it seems all over the place. It really is a seamer's paradise. And Nathan Lyon hardly really bowled because of the pitches that Australia played on.
I'm hesitant to say this because Finney's going to jump down my neck again, but
Another Surrey
Oliver,
player, is it?
Oliver from London has said, why not chuck Will Jacks
I thought
back
it might
in?
be.
Just let's
Is
take all
Oliver, is
the,
that Dan Norcross in disguise when he's not asking
I've tried to
questions?
explain.
Oliver
let's
London.
take all the brown hatters.
I have tried to explain.
In actual, let them play in a brown hat as well.
I don't want them playing.
Is he better bowler than Root?
No, not really. He's tall at all. It doesn't really turn.
Well, no, sorry, I saw him
great
get
deal.
his sixth in Pakistan, but I mean, he's a batsman who bowls a bit.
He's a batsman who bowls a bit, yeah. And, I mean, this is the issue. There are some spinners out there. You mentioned Carson, Rayan Ahmed, Farhan Ahmed, who are young, who are coming through, but I don't know that they are. We're talking about playing Australia away, But then we've already just had a discussion for 45 minutes where we couldn't work out who could bowl fast because none of them have played any cricket. None of them are fit. I mean, at the end of this conversation, do we just conclude
I'd love
that
to
England
interview
are all
the
over the place when it comes to
Dan,
bowling?
I'd love us to be able to chat to the head of the S&C, the strength and conditioning.
What would you ask?
I just want to know, why, and why are they so confident that someone that's just had one full day in the field in 4 years, they're so confident that he will be fine to go and play in a test match in a few days' time. I'm intrigued by that.
Weighed up against the gamble of doing it, and that's the point I'd really want to make. Why the rush? Because it just seems unnecessary to me to put all of that hard work and from his perspective too on the line. When I think most people's view would be, and it was leading up to this game too. Most people who've played the game would be saying it feels unnecessary to put that gamble out there when he's still got so much to give this winter. I think that's where I come from anyway.
Andy?
Just on spinners in Australia, in the recent India-Australia series, Nathan Lyon played all 5 tests and bowled 122.4 overs. Shoaib Bashir in this series has already bowled 120 overs.
Wow.
In just 2 tests. Lyon took 9 wickets at 36. Bashir thus far has 8 at 59.
And this is a point, Andy. Nathan Lyon is one of the great spinners, and you would allow him a luxury to play because he's that good.
He's only bowled 102
Correct,
overs.
but he is he is that good that you would allow that as a look. Andy's got incredible seamers. I don't think England are going to have a good enough attack to have that luxury.
And looking at the record of spinners in Australia, it has been a very, very difficult place for spinners to thrive. Jadeja in that series, who struggled here as well, 4 wickets in 3 tests. Ashwin got just 1 in the one test he played. And Graham Swan had a very big contribution in the 2010-11 Ashes. Still averaged around about 40 for the series. Had one big match where I think he took 8 wickets in one of the tests. Other than that, was largely a containing bowler in that series. It is really hard to be a spinner in Australia.
Right, well, I think we've chewed at the cud enough, really, over England's bowling travails.
Have we picked our team for Lords yet?
Oh, would you want to?
Yeah,
Go on then.
Yeah, let's just
Are you
finalise our
keeping-
team.
are we keeping the top
We've
7?
got a squad of 29,
Yeah.
and I think we're
Yeah.
going to. What are we going for? We'll go for Jofra. Jofra's now going to play.
So are we assuming the top 7 stays the same?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay, so
Stokes,
it's-
Jofra. I think it'll be Gus Atkinson. This is what England will do.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily saying that I would agree with it, but Gus Atkinson will play, I'm sure, and I think Wokes will play.
Atkinson, Wokes, Archer,
Stokes,
Bashir.
and Bashir.
Bashir, yeah.
Do you all concur?
Yes.
And does anybody have a suggestion as to who they think it should be instead? Who would you rather it were
I'd like to actually see Sam Cook play,
instead of?
because I want to know a bit more about Sam Cook.
Instead of-
Seeing him in games, I've seen Chris Wokes just look a bit leggy this week.
Yep.
Chris Wokes, I know he's got a great record at Lords, but he's also got a great record at Old Trafford. I'll be bringing in Sam
We've
Cook.
got the slope there as well. He might be
So-
interesting with that.
Yeah.
So sorry. So you would pick Archer and Atkinson?
Well, I'd like to have seen him play a bit more cricket, yeah. But now I'm in that position that,
There's no other choice. You think?
we have to go with them, yeah. You have to go with them, you have to give them
Vinny?
a bit of a
Do-
dig.
I mean, I'd like more time to deliberate. To be quite honest with you, there's a lot to digest. there.
I can't give you that.
Well, I know. I think Cook will probably play instead of Wokes. I think Cast won't play, and I think one of Atkinson and Archer will play.
That's one.
And then I think Tongue may play again.
Do you think he'll play?
I think he might play again. Yeah.
And what about you,
Well,
Agus?
they like him with a slope too. I think weren't they? He bowled very well.
Bowled
there
very well
for
at
England.
Lords against
last-
Australia,
Well, I think
yeah.
we are in the position in which we are presented with, aren't they? It's the management who have created this situation. We'd all been more comfortable, I think, had Archer played this last match, and Atkinson we just don't know. So It's one thing to throw names around there who, a bit of fun, see what their averages are, but they're not going to play. This is the squad that they've got to choose from, so this is what we think they're going to do.
I'm not. I've made a change.
Oh yeah, already.
Already.
You really are.
I can't.
You really are, Alec
Yeah, I
Benser.
can't have Archer and Atkinson.
You can't have Archer and Atkinson.
I just want Archer.
Just Archer.
Just Archer,
So is
and
Tom
I'm-
playing now, or
No, because again he looked a bit leggy this
So-
week, and
so
I
is
worry about
Wokes
him
playing and Cook?
three on the back. Cook's going to play.
and Wokes?
Yep.
Right, gotcha. Oh, there you go. Right.
My two X factor are Stokes and Archer.
Yep.
And my two rock solid length bowlers, Wokes and Cook.